Yep, we see your screen.
Cool.
Just
all right. So as Paul mentioned, we'll be talking about using external data sources today with Web Intelligence, and not only how to do it, but some of the issues that you might encounter while you're using these data sources and possible ways to overcome those issues. So in Web Intelligence, when you start a new document, there are these options for using, getting data from, pulling data into your Web Intelligence report that you want to build. Most commonly, we would use a universe, which contains all the power of business objects to be able to handle that SQL for you and do a lot of the heavy lifting. But there are those occasions where you need some data that is not available in a universe yet. So a couple of the ways that we're going to talk about today are using Excel as a data source and using a text file as a data source. All right. And before we go any further, I have a poll question. And Laura, can you pick that up?
So here is the first one. So we want to know if you're currently using any external data sources for Web Intelligence reporting, yes or no. So we'll give everyone a few seconds to answer that, and then we'll launch a follow-up question for it. All right, maybe just a few more seconds here, and we're going to be closing it out and launching the results. All right, so it looks like 67% said yes and 33% said no.
Okay.
Okay, and let's take a look at the follow-up. And then if you are you using both Excel and text files, or Excel only, text files only, or both? So you can go ahead and select that there. Just about 10 more seconds before we close it out and show the results to Roxanne. All right, so let's see here. So it looks like 73% is Excel only and 27% is both.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Not completely unexpected. I figured Excel would be the big winner there, but interesting to see that there are some others using text files as well. So very cool. So I have some slides here, but I would like to actually do the demo first, and really the slides will be just a summation of the situations that we encounter and what you need to look for when bringing or importing your file into Launchpad. Okay, so I'm going to switch now. All right.
we're still seeing the slides right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let me see.
You may need to do a stop share and then a share of that particular app.
Okay. All right, how's that?
That's it. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. All right, so the first thing that we would want to look at is adding the document to the Launchpad. So we have the ability to upload an Excel file or a text file. And the way you would do that is here, clicking on the New button and adding a local document. So I'll click on that. Oh, let me back up a second and mention that. Move that. Okay. So when I want to import this file, wherever I'm at is where the folder is going to be. So if I want to import it into this particular folder, I need to be in that folder and then add the file. Okay? So just be aware of that. So I'm going to add an Excel file to start off with. And we get presented with a screen that says choose file. And then we just browse to where that file is located. So I'm going to start off with this file here and then click add. And this is the file that I just added there. So now that I have that file in here, I can create my new web intelligence report and reference that file. So I'll click on Web Intelligence and New. And then I'll choose Excel as my data source and say OK. All right, here's that report that I just brought in. So I'll say Open. And I get presented with this screen, which says, all right, here's the file. This is where it came from. And if there's multiple sheets on the Excel spreadsheet, multiple tabs, then you can select which tab you want to bring in. In this case, there's only one. And then there's also the option to choose range. For the most part, in general, all the files that I have ever used in Webby only have one tab. However, for this presentation, I did go through and test out multiple sheets and multiple ranges and how it will behave with that. So to start off with, we'll just go with this one that only has one sheet. So this is how it examined the data up here. Right now it looked at everything and said they're all dimensions, and only my revenue should actually be a measure. So I'm going to change that to a measure and change the data type to a number. Okay. The client ID, I was particularly interested to see how it would handle it because it's a text string with some leading zeros. So I wanted to see how it handled that. And then my booked year happens to be a number, but it's a year. So how is it going to handle that? And then I have a date as well. How is it going to handle the dates? So without making any other changes except this one, I make that a measure and a number. Let me run that. So it brought in my kept okay because it at the string, but that's good. Revenue. Let's look at that. So yes, it's recognized as a number, and I can format it as a number and add a $ to it. On occasion, I've
Hey, Roxanne.
Oops. Roxanne got disconnected. It looked like. There she is. She's back.
Looks like you dropped off there for a bit.
We don't hear you, Roxanne.
Yeah, it muted me. Can you see my screen still?
No, you need to share it again.
Are we back in business?
We are.
Okay. All right. So here's my revenue column. I was able to format it as currency. So all looks good there. My years and my dates have all these nulls. I think I can fix at least the booked year with asking it to be read as a number. So I can edit and change booked year and say, read this as a number. And again, yep, that years. And then I could just format without the comma. That looks better. And now my dates. So hit this and tell it this is a date. Let's see how it handles that. Much better. Looks good. So this would be exactly the results that I wanted my Excel spreadsheet. So with some minor modifications, I can bring in my data and then perhaps merge it with some universe data that also had client ID in it and be able to add some analysis to my reports with the addition of this report. Okay, so that's the simple one. I'll close this and I won't save that report. Now I'll bring in one that has multiple ranges. So I have an Excel file here. Bring it over. I want to show you what it looks like before I add it. All right. Can you see the Excel file?
We cannot. You'll just have to hit the share screen and then select it.
Okay. Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my first sheet here just has a dump of data. The second sheet has just one range of data, but I purposely didn't put it one. I wanted to see if how it handled it sitting out here by itself. And then sheet 3 has 2 blocks of data, one here and one down here. And how will it handle that? So let's talk about that. Let's bring that in. So that data set I already brought in, and it should be my testing sheet. Now, do I have to stop sharing again to see Webby?
Yes.
Okay.
There was also a question, Roxanne. Is there a way to filter input data from Excel?
That's a good question. Let's test it out after I bring in some. Okay.
Right.
I have not tried to use the query filter in there, but let's. So I'll start a new web intelligence report based on Excel. And this time I'm going to use my. All right, so we had sheet 1, sheet 2, and if I don't specify a range, let's see how it handles it. So that one was just the one block of data, but not in A1. All right, those are my fields. So even though it didn't start at A1, it was able to grab the block of data, and those are the values that I'm looking for. Interesting that all of these should be measures except short month, which that says Jan, Feb. So I have no idea why it made that a measure. But these others, we'll turn them all into measures. All right, those are all measures. Let me run it. Yes, and here is my data. I would have to add a custom sort to get this in here. But let's see what happens if I try and make a filter and just show January data. Let's see if it will allow that. Oh, this is just a preview. It's not the query filter. So I can't filter it from the query panel, but of course I could filter it at the report level, just like anything else. Add a filter and just show January. So once it's in Webby, all the functionality still applies. Okay. All right. Now, let's bring in a new report, sheet 3. So I'll go up to Web Intelligence. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I got a message saying my connection was weak. Okay. Here's my test data. All right, I'll choose sheet 3. So now I have the 2 blocks of data. If I don't specify anything, it brings just my first block of data. However, let me click on Edit Settings, and this time I'll specify a range. So I'm going off of memory here, but I think it was N31 to we'll call it 43. Let's try that. Nope, that's not it. That's my first block again. Let me double check on the range. N31 to T43 was actually quite correct. So let me cancel the whole thing and start over.
Roxanne, you're frozen again. I think it must be your connection.
Yeah.
No, we can't hear you yet. Can you hear us, Roxanne? You can. Oh, she's disconnected. Okay, let's just give her a minute to reconnect, because it'd be nice to see that, that demo finished. Meanwhile, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A panel. We see you back again, Roxanne, but we can't hear you. You're muted. You need to unmute again.
Okay, how's that?
That's it. Okay.
All right, here we go again. I believe. I have to launch. Okay.
So the question we have to ask is, how many screens do you have? Because it looks as though you've got about 6 you're looking at there.
Only 2 monitors. Okay, let's try this again. All right, sheet 3, range N3, N31 to T43. I do not think that's the right. Oh yes, it is. That is the right data. That's it.
Look at that.
Yep, that's it. That's the data. So using the range did work there. And interesting, it recognized everything properly this time too. All of those were measures and the order month is a dimension. So that was perfect. So my data looks great there. All right. So one other thing that I wanted to see, so what happens if my Excel document has merged columns? Let me see if I can switch again. Show. Share Excel. There we go. Can you see my Excel file?
Yes.
Okay. So notice at the top, these fields here are merged. And then these refinancing and other loans. And then I've got columns of data. I've also got 2 completely blank columns in the midst of this. So how is it going to handle this data? So we'll go back to Webby. Oops, not that one. And we'll start a new report based on this market share merged columns. Oh, also, this particular one is an old Excel file. I wanted to see how it handled that. So this is a .xls, the Excel 97 to 2003 version. I wanted to see if it behaved any differently. So let me bring that in. And what I found is that it didn't, it handled that old version perfectly fine. However, how it handles the merged dimensions or merged fields, this is kind of what I end up with. So it kind of doesn't, since that first, I happen to say here, it says first row contains column names. Well, it doesn't really, but even if I uncheck that, it just assigns a number to them. So it doesn't know what to do with them. If I put that back on and process this, it really ends up being data that I could work with. So I actually do get all the data, including the empty columns. And I did double check to see, is this the correct data, say for Alabama and Arizona, are those the correct values? And it is going down the columns. It is exactly how the Excel file had it. So I would just need to rename each of these. And of course, because these are, they should be measures. So I could change them into measures. So it's not ideal, and the better course would be to clean up the Excel file before you brought it into Web Intelligence. So remove those merged columns and make sure you just had a nice clean header row. Get rid of your empty columns, and then it would be good to go. Okay? So just wanted to show you that example. All right, I'm going to move on to Excel or to text files. Are there any questions regarding Excel at this point?
Well, we still had that one kind of left over about filtering.
Oh.
They don't see a filter option, only result objects and data preview. That's
correct. You cannot filter. The query filter does not let you and put a query filter on the Excel data. So you would need to do any filtering at the report level rather than at the query panel level. Okay.
Got it. Got it.
You can filter it, just not in the query panel.
Okay.
All right. So I have two text files as well that we're going to use. Let's see, I had this ops and, oh, I wanted to mention about CSV as well, because I wanted to know how would it handle a CSV file. And the short answer is that it allows you to bring in, for example, this was an Excel file, but saved as a CSV, and it allowed me to bring it in, but it did not allow me to use it as a data source. So when I went looking for my data sources, again, the only two options we have really are Excel or text. CSV isn't one of the options. And if I choose Excel, then the CSV file does not show up as an option. So you can upload it, you just can't use it. Okay? All right, so now for text files. How does it handle text files? Let me bring in one of the text files here, and there's some interesting nuances with that data. I'll bring in that ops data. So this is the look of the sheet. Do you want to use a tab? Is it a tab between each of the data columns? You can use a space or a character. I went with the default on all of this. I tried once to change the date format, and it didn't seem to matter what I did here. It brought in the date however it was in the data source. Okay. All right, so again, it made my client ID a number, which in my case would not be a good thing. So I'll go ahead and run this and just show you. See, it dropped my leading zeros on there. Okay. And this is the way it brought in the dates, year-month-day, and a timestamp. So let me edit this and change client ID to a dimension and a string. So that will fix that issue. So that looks better here. How about our our revenue? So revenue if I wanted to format this, I don't know if you could tell, but I can't, it's grayed out here. So it's treating it as text. So if I edit this and try and change that to a number and a measure and run that query, it seems like it worked, but again, I can't change the formatting here. So in essence, it's still treating it like a string. However, I'll come back to that issue and how to rectify that.
Yeah, Roxanne,
Yes.
Jose Ferreira pointed out that the CSV file was shown as an option to select in the text file data source. Maybe that's the way to use it.
Oh, maybe I'll try that. I'll try that. Thank you, Jose. Okay, booked date, if I change that to a date, let's see how it handles that. Now it got rid of all our dates, which there should be a date here. So it didn't handle that so well. So what I noticed was that it kind of depended on how the text file was fed its information initially. So what I did was I went back to my text file and how I generated the text file and removed the commas from revenue, and then it treated it, then I was able to convert it into a number and it worked. So let me show you that real quick. I'll start a new Web Intelligence report. And select, oh, you're right. Look at there, the CSV file is opening. Thank you, Jose. I'm glad you noticed that. So this file here, opportunities, I removed the commas that were in the numbers. And now look, right off the bat, it says, I see that those are numbers and that's probably a measure, which it is. Booked year, I'll change that into a dimension. My book date, it recognized as a date. And my client ID, I'll just change that back into a string. Whoops, not a detail. All right. All right, so this looks good. I have all my dates in again now. Looks really nice. I can format those dates into any format that I want. And I can format the revenue as well. So depending on how your text file is generated, if you have numbers that you want to be able to format afterwards, just don't, the source should not put the commas in there, the thousands separator or the dollar signs as well. Okay, so let's try bringing in that CSV file this time and see how that works. Looking good. I'll make that into a number again. Add it into a dimension. All right, looks pretty good. The dates it didn't handle so well, but let's see if we can fix that. And I can format the revenue, so that's great. So it handled that well. Let me edit this one more time and see if I can change that into a date. It kind kind of didn't seem to make a difference there. However, again, it might have been how the data was exported as a CSV file. I kind of suspect that it was like a general column in Excel when I exported it and not as a true date. So that could make a difference as well. All right, so that is using Excel and text files as a data source. Are there any questions?
I think you pretty much answered them all, Roxanne. Thank you so much. That was pretty awesome. And thank you. And that wraps up our sessions for the day.